Meet Australia's marsupial lion. G'day mates! Today we're going on an adventure back in time, way back to meet one of Australia's most incredible beasts. I'm talking about a real-life monster, a true blue Aussie legend. Its name is Thylacoleo carnifex, but you can call it the marsupial lion. Now don't let the name fool you. This wasn't a cat like the African lions we know and love. No, this beauty was something else entirely. It was a marsupial, meaning it had a pouch, just like a kangaroo or a koala. Can you believe that? A lion-sized predator that carried its joeys around in a pouch? It was the top predator, the king of the bush for millions of years. What a magnificent creature. Imagine an animal that combined the power of a lion with the uniqueness of a kangaroo. That was Thylacoleo. This fella roamed the Australian continent during a time we call the Pleistocene epoch. That's a fancy way of saying it lived from about 2 million years ago right up until about 46,000 years ago. It shared the land with other giant Aussie animals, the Megafauna, like giant kangaroos and massive wombats called Diprotodon. But out of all those giants, Thylacoleo was the one you wouldn't want to run into on a dark night. It was a specialist hunter, built for power and designed to be the apex predator of its time. It was a true Aussie battler. What makes this animal so special, you ask? Well, everything. Its story is one of the most amazing tales of evolution you'll ever hear. It came from ancestors that were gentle plant eaters, but it turned into the most powerful carnivorous mammal Australia has ever seen. It had a bite that could crush bone and teeth that were like giant sharp bolt cutters. This wasn't just another predator, it was a unique killing machine, perfectly adapted to its environment. We know all this because of the amazing fossils our scientists have dug up all over the country, giving us a window into this lost world. Studying Thylacoleo is like being a detective, piecing together the clues of Australia's wild past. So buckle up because we're about to dive deep into the world of this incredible marsupial lion. We're going to look at how it evolved, what it looked like, and how it hunted its tucker. We'll explore the ancient landscapes it called home, and try to solve the mystery of why this magnificent beast disappeared from the face of the earth. It's a story of power, survival, and a legacy that still fascinates us today, long after its last roar echoed through the Aussie bush. It's a reminder of just how wild and wonderful this country of ours really is. What a beauty. Right, let's get one thing straight from the start. Even though we call it the marsupial lion, Thylacoleo wasn't related to lions or any cats at all. It's a classic case of what we call convergent evolution, where two different animals evolved to look similar because they do a similar job. Thylacoleo was a proud member of the order Diprotodontia. That's the same group that includes all our modern Aussie marsupials like kangaroos, wallabies, possums, koalas, and wombats. That's right. This fearsome predator's closest living relatives are the cuddly koala and the wombat. Isn't that just mind-blowing? A killer that's related to a gum leaf chewer? So how does a gentle, plant-eating family tree produce a super predator? Evolution, mate. It's a slow and amazing process. Millions of years ago, the ancestors of Thylacoleo were likely small, tree-dwelling, possum-like creatures that probably ate a mix of plants, insects, and maybe small animals. Over time, as the environment changed and new opportunities opened up, this particular family, the Thylacoleonidae, started down a different path. They started to get bigger and their teeth began to change. They were adapting to become meat eaters, filling a gap in the ecosystem for a large, powerful predator. It took millions of years, but they went from humble herbivores to the kings of the food chain. The family tree of the marsupial lions is really interesting. There wasn't just one type, there were several species over millions of years, starting with smaller cat-sized ones and getting bigger and bigger over time. The one we're talking about, Thylacoleo carnifex, was the biggest and the last of its kind. The name carnifex even means butcher or executioner in Latin, which gives you a pretty good idea of what this animal was all about. It was the peak of this evolutionary experiment, the final and most powerful version of the marsupial lion line before it vanished forever. What an absolute unit. When you look at its closest living relatives, the wombats, you can actually see some clues. Wombats have very strong skulls and powerful jaws for chewing tough roots and grasses. It seems Thylacoleo took that basic wombat-like skull structure and adapted it for a completely different purpose. Instead of grinding plants, it evolved to have incredible bone-crushing power. It's a classic example of nature taking a blueprint and using it to build something new and dangerous. So next time you see a wombat waddling through the bush, remember, you're looking at the closest living cousin of Australia's greatest prehistoric predator, Crikey. Alright, let's talk about what made this animal a stone-cold, top-of-the-food chain predator. Thylacoleo was built like a little tank. It wasn't as tall as a modern lion, but it was incredibly stocky and muscular. A big one would have been about the size of a leopard or a jaguar, weighing in at over 130 kilograms, maybe even more. That's a whole lot of muscle. Its skeleton tells us it had a really powerful chest and massive front legs. It wasn't built for long-distance running like a cheetah. No, this fella was an ambush predator. It was all about explosive power, using brute force to take down its prey in a short, violent struggle. Now, the real weapons on this beast were its teeth and claws. They were unbelievable. Forget about canine teeth like a dog or a cat. Thylacoleo's front teeth, its incisors, were like giant sharp chisels. They were huge and pointed, perfect for stabbing and holding onto prey. But the scariest part was its cheek teeth, the premolars. They had evolved into massive blade-like shears like a pair of bolt cutters. Scientists believe it had the most powerful bite for its size of any mammal that has ever lived. It could have sliced through flesh, hide, and even bone with a single devastating chomp. Can you imagine the power in that jaw? And then there were the claws. Oh, the claws! On its front paws, Thylacoleo had a massive, retractable claw on its thumb, a bit like a cat's claw but way bigger and meaner. It was like a giant switchblade. This claw would have been its secret weapon. It could have used it to grab onto struggling prey, to disembowel it, or even to help it climb trees. Some scientists think Thylacoleo might have been a bit of a climber, using its powerful front legs and that giant thumb claw to haul itself up trees, maybe to ambush prey from above or to drag its kills away from scavengers. It was a truly versatile and deadly weapon. Putting it all together, you get a picture of a perfect killing machine. A stocky, powerful body for wrestling prey to the ground. A jaw that could deliver a bone-shattering bite, blade-like teeth that could shear through anything, and a giant hooked thumb claw for pinning and slashing. Thylacoleo wasn't just a predator, it was a specialist, perfectly designed for the Australian environment and the giant animals it hunted. It was a unique Aussie design, a marsupial that had evolved to be the ultimate carnivore. Nature really outdid itself with this one. What a magnificent, dangerous beauty. So, where did this mighty marsupial lion call home? All over Australia, mate. From the dry, arid center to the woodlands of the east and the caves of the west, Thylacoleo was everywhere. Its fossils have been found in every single state and territory. This tells us that it was an incredibly successful and adaptable animal, able to survive in a wide range of different habitats. Back in the Pleistocene, Australia wasn't all desert like it is today. The climate was different, often wetter, and the landscape was a mix of open woodlands, grasslands, and forests. It was the perfect place for a super predator to thrive. One of the most famous places we've found Thylacoleo fossils is in the Narracoorte Caves in South Australia. These caves are a World Heritage Site, and they are like a treasure chest of fossils. Over thousands of years, animals would fall into hidden holes on the surface and end up trapped in the caves below. Their bones were perfectly preserved, giving us a snapshot of the animals that lived in the area. We've found complete skeletons of Thylacoleo in these caves, which is incredibly rare and tells us so much about how they were built. It's like finding a complete dinosaur skeleton, but this one is our very own Aussie monster. Another amazing spot is the Nullarbor Plain. Today it's a vast, treeless plain, but we've found caves there that contain the remains of Thylacoleo. This suggests that even in these more open, arid environments, the marsupial lion was able to find enough food and shelter to survive. It probably used these caves as dens, a safe place to raise its young and to hide from the hot sun. Finding their skeletons deep inside these dark caves gives you a bit of a chill. You can just imagine one of these predators lurking in the shadows, waiting for its next meal. It really brings the past to life. By studying the fossils and the places they're found, we can rebuild the world Thylacoleo lived in. It was a world filled with giants. Massive, short-faced kangaroos called Procoptodon, some standing 3 meters tall. Giant, rhino-sized wombats called Diprotodon, huge, flightless birds. This was the smorgasbord that Thylacoleo had to choose from. It was the king of this megafauna world, stalking through the ancient eucalyptus woodlands and across the open plains. It was an Australia that was wilder and more dangerous than anything we can imagine today. What a world it must have been. So, if Thylacoleo was such a successful and powerful predator, where is it today? Why did this magnificent beast disappear? That, my friends, is the million-dollar question, and it's a real mystery that scientists are still trying to solve. The marsupial lion vanished from the fossil record around 46,000 years ago, along with most of Australia's other giant megafauna. It wasn't just one animal that went extinct, it was a massive wipeout. Something big happened in Australia around that time, and it changed the country forever. There are two main suspects in this extinction mystery: climate change and humans. The first suspect is climate change. Around the time the megafauna disappeared, Australia was going through a period of major environmental change. The continent was becoming much drier and more arid. The weather patterns were becoming more extreme, with longer droughts. This meant the lush woodlands and grasslands started to shrink, replaced by desert and scrub. For the giant plant eaters that Thylacoleo preyed on, this was bad news. Less water and less food meant their populations would have struggled. And if your dinner starts to disappear, it's not long before you're in trouble too. The whole ecosystem was under stress. The second and very important suspect is us, humans. The very first Aboriginal people arrived in Australia somewhere between 65,000 and 50,000 years ago. That timeline lines up pretty closely with when the megafauna started to disappear. These first Australians were expert hunters and incredibly smart survivors. They brought new hunting techniques and tools, and they also brought fire. By using fire to manage the landscape, they could have changed the types of plants that grew, which would have had a huge impact on the giant herbivores. And, of course, they would have hunted the megafauna for food. A big animal like a diprotodon would have fed a lot of people. Most scientists now believe it wasn't just one thing, but a deadly combination of both. It was a double whammy. Imagine you're the marsupial lion. The climate is getting drier, so the giant kangaroos and wombats you hunt are becoming harder to find. And then, a new, clever, two-legged predator shows up, a predator that hunts in groups, uses spears, and can change the entire landscape with fire. This new competitor is hunting the same food as you, and maybe even hunting you. It would have been an incredibly tough time to be a Thylacoleo. The pressure from both a changing climate and the arrival of humans was likely too much for them to handle. Even though the marsupial lion is gone, it is definitely not forgotten. This animal has left a massive footprint on our history and our imagination. It's a true Aussie icon. One of the most incredible things is that we can see what might be images of Thylacoleo in ancient Aboriginal rock art. In some remote parts of northern Australia, there are paintings on rock walls that show a powerful, four-legged predator with sharp claws and a stocky build. Some of these paintings even show features that look like the marsupial lion's unique teeth and powerful limbs. It's possible that these are eyewitness accounts, painted by the first people who shared the land with this incredible beast. These stories and images give us a powerful connection to the deep past. It suggests that the memory of Thylacoleo was passed down through generations in stories and songs. Can you imagine sitting around a campfire 40,000 years ago, listening to your elders tell stories about the fearsome pouch lion that stalked the bush? These weren't just monster stories, they were survival guides, teaching the next generation about the dangers of the land. The fact that we might have art depicting these animals is just amazing. It bridges the gap between science and ancient human culture, and shows us how important these animals were to the first Australians. Today, Thylacoleo is more famous than ever. Every time a new fossil is found, it makes headlines. Scientists are constantly learning new things about it. Recent studies using advanced computer modeling have confirmed the incredible power of its bite, and have shown how its unique teeth worked, like giant shears. Other studies looking at its skeleton have shown it had a stiff lower back, which means it probably couldn't chase prey over long distances, confirming the theory that it was an ambush hunter. It might have even used its powerful tail like a kangaroo to prop itself up. Every discovery adds another piece to the puzzle. The legacy of the marsupial lion is a powerful reminder of what Australia has lost. It represents a time when our country was home to a unique and wonderful collection of giant animals. Studying Thylacoleo helps us understand how ecosystems work, and what can happen when they are put under pressure from things like climate change and new arrivals. It's a story that is more relevant today than ever before. This incredible beast, this giant wombat cousin turned super predator, will forever be the king of Australia's lost world. What a legend, and what an important story for us to remember.